to talk a little bit about the national economy. I sometimes wonder if we even have Washington anymore or an economy, but that's okay. We need to talk about it because things are going on back there that it's just every day it's 5,000 things. And then we'll get down to Silicon Valley. And then I do want to talk about the markets and the real estate market and what I think is happening out there and what I think is coming forward for us and how long this market's going to stay the way it is and is it going to be good or is it going to turn around or what's going to happen. So I just went back and I said, okay, I'm going to go back 1 week and let's see what's happened in the life of Washington just in 1 week. So I'll do both economic and I'll do both a little bit political, not getting into politics, but just the political things that have happened. Last Monday, if you remember, when you got up, basically the Dow was almost at 21,000. The S&P was basically at 2,400, and NASDAQ was at the best it's ever been at over 6,000. And the dollar was up. Oil had gone up a little bit. It was about $49 a barrel. Gold was about the same. And everything was looking really good. The tech stocks were on fire, and everything seemed pretty calm. And then we basically find out that, okay, we started in with the Russia people and everybody with Russia and who's doing what and if they're basically in our elections and if they're not and who said what to whom. And when Mr. Trump had the Russians there, did he give them some kind of a secret kind of very classified information and did he not? And everybody's rambling about that. And we want somebody to investigate, and we have to figure it out, and everybody's all abuzz about that. So you get up on Tuesday morning, and on Tuesday morning, the Dow, by the end of the day, had gone down almost 400 points, because they're back and forth, and yes and no, and he did and he didn't, and he has the right to do it, which he does, but even though he did it, he shouldn't have done it, and why does he do things like that? And so there we go, there went the market. So nobody cared about anything that was happening economically, it was all political. So then things calmed down again, and we're sort of getting our way back up. And then, of course, we know that he comes out and he fires Mr. Comey, who's basically the head of the FBI. And he does that when Mr. Comey is basically in Los Angeles on a tarmac waiting to make a speech. So, of course, all the news runs out there, and we have that all over the news. But they let him come back on the private plane, I want you to know. So and so he comes back, and, of course, there was this letter that came out from the White House that said these were the reasons why Mr. Comey was discharged. And it was not Mr. Trump who did this. It was basically the Assistant Attorney General, and he gave all his reasons for why he had this man basically let go. And he said it started way back with Hillary Clinton and the investigation that he headed because he was basically just supposed to be an investigator. That's what the FBI does. They investigate things. They're not supposed to determine what happens at the end. They're supposed to turn that over to a prosecutor who would have been the Attorney General, Mrs. Lynch, and they said, and he didn't do that. Well, he says he couldn't because she had sat on a plane, remember, with President Clinton, so she had to recruise herself. I mean, these people are unbelievable. So at the end of the day, that whole thing got fouled up. So anyway, that was of that, plus some other reasons, and they did it. So everyone saw him, comes down and says, well, that sounds pretty reasonable. Then the next morning, the president twitters out, that's not why he was fired. He's fired because he's a crazy man, and I didn't like him. I think he's off his rocker. I think he's a nut. Okay, fine. So all the world goes into basically drama again, and everybody starts screaming, okay, now we have to have a special investigation because Congress can't do it, the White House can't do it, the Attorney General's office can't do it, Mr. Comey can't do it, and then Mr. Comey comes out and says, I kept really copious notes when I met with the president, and the president told me to go easy on Mike Flynn, which might have just been, gee, he's a nice guy, maybe he'll go easy, but I don't know what he did, what he said. He said he didn't say that, he said yes he did. So now they have a special, basically, counsel, which is different than a special prosecutor. Now, see, a special prosecutor is you know there's a crime been committed, and you go and investigate the crime. So think of Watergate. Remember that when Nixon, that was a crime. They knew there was a break-in. They had a crime. So that was a prosecutor. That lasted 7 years and cost us $80 million. So good luck. So now there's no crime. So we're investigating a maybe. He said, she said, they said, we said, okay. It'll cost us the same $80 million, and Mr. Mueller now, the 78-year-old, was head of the FBI, gets this wonderful job, which will probably go on for the next 5 years, and you'll never know what happened anyway, because when you have a he said, she said, how in the hell do you ever know who said what? Okay, so then everything calms down again, and then the president gets on a plane, and he goes, obviously, on this trip. And I guess I would say this about the trip. He seems to be quieter on the trip, which is good. He's acting a little more presidential, which is a good thing. And I think that the speech he made probably in Saudi Arabia probably was a good speech. seem to basically like the fact that America's coming back and going to be helpful to them, not try to tell them what to do, but to help them put away this terrible thing that we have out there, these terrorists who are of all nationalities, all creations, all people. They're just evil, bad people all across the whole spectrum. Obviously, we saw that yesterday in Manchester. So at the end of the day, I think he did that. I think the other thing that he did, which was probably good, is he brought with him a huge deal for arms and basically all kinds of safety equipment. So it's $160 billion to begin with, but it's $500 billion over 10 years, and that's a lot of money. So that means a lot of jobs. And he brought with him the head of General Electric and Boeing and Rayon and Northrop Grumman. They were all with him on the plane. And so that means jobs. We need to get this economy up and running. And then he went obviously to Israel, so I know that Israel knows that they're basically in better hands again, so I guess they're happy. And now he's on his way to Rome to see the Pope, okay? Boy, he's really making the rounds, isn't he? He's picking every religion in the world. Now he's on going to see the Pope, see the little chubby Pope. I hope the Pope doesn't convince him to do anything. We'll hope not anyway. And then he's on his way to Sicily. So you can expect all the Twitters again. So get prepared, okay? Because they're coming. In the meantime, the market is back up to almost 21,000. We're over 6 again on Nasdaq, and the S&P is up. Oil now is up to $51 a barrel. Gold is doing fine. Okay, so now let's talk about what they're going to do back there. Let's talk about what they need to do. We had a lousy first quarter, 0.7%. That's terrible, terrible growth. We ended last year at 1.9% GDP for the whole country. That is absolutely terrible for a country the size of the United States of America. It is absolutely dismal. Now that has nothing to do with what's happened here, and we'll talk about that. However, it was dismal across the board, and we've got to get this place up and running. So obviously that's the job. Now we know that they put out some things that they're going to do, and I think what you're seeing is the stock market that's waffling between 20,008 and 21,000, which is saying, okay, we like what we hear you're going to do. We're going to give you some time to do it, but you better do it come September, and I'll tell you why. They passed a budget through September, which is a lousy budget. It's the budget from last year. Rather than fight the fight about it, they said, fine, pass the budget. The big fight comes in September because some things have to happen in order for this place to get up to 3%. So let's talk about what has to happen. The first thing that has to happen is that we have to live within our budget. We have to have a budget that at the end of the year we haven't spent more than we budgeted for. Last year we exceeded that amount by $800 billion. So we were a little off the mark. The next thing is the debt. You cannot keep encouraging this debt. We spent the first 200 years of our existence in America accumulating $10 billion in debt. The last 10 years we've doubled that. We're now at $20 trillion in debt, going to 21. So they have a package that gets that debt reduced within about 10 or 12 years. Now, all that means certain things are going to happen. So I can tell you what's going to happen already. Medicare and basically Social Security will not be touched under their new tax plan. They will not basically change that at all. But entitlements are going to change. Entitlements are going to be hit to some degree almost across the board. Veterans have been increased, military equipment has been increased, and basically that's how they balance the budget. Now what are they going to do with taxes? Because besides having jobs, they came in saying they wanted to reduce taxes. So now we have 7 ranges for consumers. They're probably going to bring them down to 3 ranges. If you're in the top range, it's 39.6%, all right? They say they want to bring them down to 35%. Now, at the same time, what they've done, so people will not say this is a tax break for the rich, they've said in high tax states, of which we are one, because we pay 13% tax here, in California, and basically New York, and there's a couple of other states, they've said all your state deductions are going to go away. Now let's talk about what that really means, okay? Because people panic when they hear that. Okay, if you're paying 39% and you go down to 35, you're going to get a reduction over here. That's probably going to offset what you had in state deductions. So it's probably a wash. The other thing is, how much do people pay? Well, if you go by around the 7 counties, of course, obviously, Marin, San Francisco, San Mateo, then you head to San Jose, Santa Clara counties pay the most, obviously. So it low as $5,000 per person to as high as $20,000 per person, and some people pay a lot more depending upon their income, right? So that's about the range. So if they bring you down about 4%, it could be equivalent to what you're probably close to paying in state taxes. The other thing is, I bet you that most people in this room don't realize it, but we have something that they're going to try to get rid of called the alternative minimum tax. And the alternative minimum tax is a federal tax that says when you hit a certain income, and in California it's about $190,000 a year, they take away all your state deductions, so you don't get them anyway. So you're not getting your property tax deductions, you're not getting sales taxes, you're not getting DMV, you're not getting state income taxes. That's all taken away from you because the federal government says you get too much money. So at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a wash. It may cost people a little, but it's not going to be as heinous as basically it sounds if you just look at it without looking at it all together. They're going to try to drop the corporate taxes. Now, they would like to bring them to 15%. That's never going to happen in your lifetime and mine. They'll probably bring them down to maybe 25 or 20%. That would be a biggie, but that would help. What we really want is the money that's abroad to come back, because they've got about $3 trillion sitting abroad, of which $1 trillion belongs in this valley, and we would very much like to get it back here, so they're looking at that. So that's what they're looking at for the tax issues. Now let's talk about Obamacare for a minute. Now look, guys, Obamacare needs to be tweaked. And I'll tell you why. Because it's going broke. It cost us $1 trillion more than they planned last year. And here's the real problem with it. Everybody likes Obamacare in the sense that you can get on it, right? No matter whether you have an illness or you don't. And some people like it because they don't pay as much as others. But one, it's going up for a lot of people. But here's the real reason. In 2018, 4 large insurance companies have said they're getting out of the healthcare business because they've lost so much money they can't afford Obamacare. So we're talking about Humana, Aetna, United Healthcare, and Anthem. Those are huge, huge, huge healthcares. Now, let me tell you why you want Obamacare to get basically tweaked and you want it to stay there. Because in California, they are saying that, okay, let's go to a single payer system. We'll get out of Obamacare totally, and we're going to charge everybody 15% tax on their payroll. How would you like that as a small business owner? That'll take care of business here. That's number one. The second thing they're trying to do, because they figured out to change us from Obamacare to a single payer system would cost $400 billion. The whole state budget last year was $180 billion. I mean, these people are nuts back in Sacramento. The other thing that they're trying to do, and you guys as advocates should be out there with your associations, they now would like to put a tax on services. They say, okay, we understand they're going to take away your state exemptions. So you know what? We should lower the income tax in California. So instead of 13%, we should only make you pay 12%. Everybody's going, oh, that's good. Except in order to make up for that, they want to put it on services. So just think of all the services that you give to somebody who wants to buy and sell a house, right? They have to list it. There's one service with a tax on it. You need an appraisal. You need an inspector. You need a home warranty. The agent on the other side. You have a title report. You have insurance. Yeah. 7 taxes on one transaction. So you definitely do not want that to happen. So you'd like to keep Obamacare no matter how they send it to you from Washington. Say that's great. And we do not want a service tax in the state of California. So I just want you to know what your government's doing at work while you're all sitting here trying to earn a living. That's really good, right? So now that we've talked about that, what I'm going to tell you is forget about Washington. Washington is a mental condition. They're absolutely crazy back there. Those people are mentally deranged and they have no clue what they're doing, okay? So now let's talk about Silicon Valley, because that's really what's important. That's the economy that we have here. Last year we grew at 7% in the valley, okay? That was equating us with about $230 billion worth of goods and services. Now, how we got to 7% was Santa Clara and San Jose counties grew at 8.9%. And then if you add in Marin, San Mateo, San Francisco, Contra Costa, and Alameda, they grew at 4.1%. So you put the two together, you get 7%. Now, let's assume they do something in Washington and we start to move towards 3%, which is not going to happen overnight because it's a big, ugly ship back there. You're talking like 4 or 5 years. Then we're going to still grow at 7-8% here. Let's assume that this marriage back there between these Republicans and Democrats is a marriage that can't be saved, and we go into a recession. We will have a recession here too, but it will be very mild, and maybe we'll only grow at 4%. But either way, we're going to grow here. We're going to hope we can grow at 7 or 8% because we like that number, and we like when we grow. Now let me tell you the reasons why I think we're going to be fine here. Let's talk about the companies that are down there and how much money they have to begin with. So when you look at the stock market back in 1999, and you look at the top 5 stocks on the Dow, you will find out that the first stock was General Electric, the second one was, the fourth one was Disneyland, and the fifth one was basically another oil company. That was the big one. Today, when you look at the New York Stock Exchange and you look at the Dow, Apple at $861 billion is number 1, followed by Google, Facebook, Microsoft, then you get ExxonMobil, then you get basically Disney, and then you get Walmart. So you see how it's changed. So now, technology is the economy. Just between those 5 companies, you're talking about trillions of dollars. So that's number 1. They have money. They have a lot of money. Apple, as an example, has $60 billion sitting here and $230 billion sitting abroad. So you know and I know that whether there's a recession or not, they can certainly sustain themselves. They can keep people working. They can do what they have to do. That's number 1. So they have enough money to withstand anything that comes at us. They're basically looking at this area and they're saying, okay, everybody loves it here. Everybody wants to stay here. We have no inventory. We only have so much land. We have a tremendous demand, and that has made it very hard for people to afford to live here, and we obviously have some traffic problems. So how do we help those? Well, the cities have no money. We know that. The state doesn't have any money, but they have a lot of money, and they're basically going to take care of the problems the best they can. So you see Apple that just opened in Cupertino, and they have a city there. It's not just a work environment. It's a city surrounded by Cupertino with everything in it, from retail to basically theaters to cafeterias to work center. You're going to see Menlo Park. Facebook is going to do the same with condominiums and houses and all kinds of things. Google's going over to Marin. They're putting people on buses. They're trying to get trains back up and running. So at the end of the day, they're looking at it and saying, we understand, and we understand that there's a lot of people up here that can afford these houses, but we're worried about people down at this tier that basically are struggling to try to get in. We have to help them. So they're doing that in Facebook by 1,500 homes, of which 20% will be for low-cost housing. 500 apartments they're giving for free for 5 years to police, fire, and teachers. So you begin to see that they don't care what they spend. A couple of $1 billion, $5 billion, it's like rounding off for them. Second reason. The third reason is basically when you look at these companies and we say, okay, where are they? Look at them on the stock exchange, and every one of them is almost near an all-time high. You know that basically Apple will be the first $1 trillion company. You look at Facebook, 2 billion people come in every single month, basically, and they have the whole world. Apple, where are they going to go? India and China, and everybody laughs and says India and China. Who can afford an iPhone in India and China? Well, let's think about that. There's 7 billion people in the world. 4 billion of them live in China and India, so of course we have to go there. They won't give them an iPhone 7. They'll give them a knockoff iPhone 7 that's a lot cheaper, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, he just went to China, Mr. Cook, and bought a company called Didi, which is the Uber of China. And guess what? If you want a car from Didi, you have to have an iPhone 7 in order to get it. So you're beginning to understand what they're doing. Intel just bought a company called Mobileye from Israel, which is in the driverless car business. They don't want to be in driverless cars. They want the chips that are going to be necessary to drive that car. So you know, with artificial intelligence, voice recognition, driverless cars, what they're doing with health and healthcare, they're just starting, okay? We are just starting phase 2 of what's going to be probably 10 phases. So they know where they're going, and their plans are all 5 and 10 years. So let me give you another example. You have Tesla, the motor company car, right? Mr. Musk. And do you know that he sold about 65,000 cars last year? Ford Motor Company sold about 7 million cars. And yet Tesla Motor Company has more market value on the stock exchange than Ford Motor Company. And their market cap is greater than General Motors. Now, why is that? Because if you ask Mr. Musk and he was sitting here, he would say to you, I'm not in the car business. I make a product called a car, but I'm in the technology business. Everything that I own runs on technology. So the Tesla runs on batteries, right? Solar City is going to run on roof tiles that are going to be embedded. batteries. I now own a spaceship company. So we didn't screw up this planet enough. Now we're going to go screw up another one. Okay, great. So batteries are going to take the spaceship up there. So you begin to get the message. So they know where they're going, and they're basically have all the money behind them. Third thing, you didn't have many IPOs last year, but this year you're going to have 38, 12 of which are coming out of the valley. Now the first one you had was Snap, remember? Up 44% the day it came public, it's down a little. But their stock in about 3 months is going to be able to be cashed in, and a lot of them are going to be cashing in their stock. There comes $20 billion into the valley that people will start to spend. And behind them are 12 others that are coming. And what's interesting is Snap was never profitable, you know that. And yes, they gave it a $22 billion value. And the 12 that are coming, not one of them is profitable. It doesn't matter on Wall Street. If you're General Electric, you have to be profitable. If you're Snap and everything else in between, you don't have to be profitable because they judge you by eyeballs and how many people come in and the data you get and how you use that data. So we have another $1 trillion coming into the valley this year just in IPOs. Third reason, look at the investors that are coming. You have Mr. Ma from Alibaba who's coming, and he's going to basically take on Amazon. And while we're talking about technology companies, let's talk about some and what they're doing. Amazon.com has something called Echo, right? And inside Echo lives something called Alexa. Now, the way these millennials refer to Alexa, you would think she's a person. I don't think she's a person, right? She's just a machine, but they talk about it like I talk to Alexa. Hello, Alexa. Alexa, do this. Alexa, do that. Okay. So the is Amazon.com is going in the retail clothing business. And what they're going to say is you go to Alexa and you say, Alexa, take my picture and put it on my camera. So she takes your picture, puts it on a camera, and then you go into their application where they're going to have all their clothing line for women, men, and children. And Alexa puts it from there right on the camera. And she can turn you so that you can see the front, the back, the side.
That's cool.
Are you fat? Are you not fat? Etc. See how cool you all like that? Yeah. See, there goes Macy's. Goodbye, Macy's. Have a nice life. Okay. Then they're going to be in the grocery business, which they're already in the grocery business, and I think I understand why. Because groceries are perishable, and they're hard to transport and leave outside for somebody. See, Walmart's doing better in groceries online than they are, because Walmart has a store within 10 miles of every urban center, so they can move things faster. Guess what other business they're going to go in that brought CVS and Walgreens down 5% in one day? They're going into the drug delivery business. So you begin to see that Amazon is not stopping at any place, anywhere. Now look what else happened. You have something called basically Airbnb, which you know has been the #1 disruptor this year of all companies. #2 was a company called Lyft, which you've all heard of, that just did a partnership with a company called Wayne, which is under a company called Alphabet. Now when Facebook got too valuable, they decided to break themselves up. Social media makes a lot of money. Over here is a company they have called Alphabet. That's where they do all their research, driverless cars, voice recognition, people talking to people, goggles, all that crap, right? That stock this morning was $968 a share already. There's a company called Wayne under that that's in driverless cars. So now Lyft and Wayne have a partnership together, all right? Now listen to this one, because this is the best one. I love this one. Uber just made a partnership with McDonald's. And now you can have your hamburgers delivered to your house. And everybody says to me, that's crazy. Now let's think about that. In America, one of the most favorite pastimes is when the Super Bowl is on and big sporting events are on. Do you know what is the biggest day for what product? Pizza. Everybody buys pizza, but you have to have it delivered. You're not going to leave the game to go pick up a pizza. So now McDonald's, for birthday parties, you call Uber and they'll deliver a pizza to you. So you begin to understand all these marriages of people that you never thought could be married before. Third thing is, look at all the money coming in the valley. You have Mr. Sun, who's the head of SoftBank, who lives here on this area, and he owns 70% of Sprint, just brought $50 billion with him to invest in American technology businesses. And he was just on the phone the other day when they had the earnings for Sprint. And I was listening to that phone call because I just wanted to hear it because he was on it. And he's a really interesting guy. These guys are so interesting, and these women that basically have all this money to spend. And they were sort of giving him a hard time because they said to him, well, you have 1 million new subscribers this quarter, but you're still behind AT&T and Verizon. And that really irritated him. He didn't like that. And they said the reason why you have 1 million new subscribers is because you're playing the money game and you're losing money on every one of those people. And eventually, how much money are you willing to lose, Mr. Sun, before you catch up to AT&T and Verizon? He said, I look at it this way. He said, yesterday I just spent $3 billion buying more spectrum in the sky, so now I'm going to be faster than AT&T and I'm going to be faster than Verizon. I'm also going to be cheaper, and I'm going to business, and it says number 1 at Sprint. Oh my God, that's exactly what he said. That's how he said it, and I believed every word he said because this guy's got 50 billion bucks he just brought with him. So if he spent 3 billion, he's still got 47 sitting there that he can spread out among the world. So when you look at Silicon Valley, I guess what I'm trying to say is the economy here is like none anyplace else, all right, guys? And I mean, it's almost mind-boggling when we talk about the numbers that we talk about and the dollars we talk about and the capabilities that they have and where they want to go. And they don't care about Washington, and they don't care about the rules and regulations, and they kind of do what they want. So you have a good economy, great economy, magical economy, all right? And magical economies create very, very, very good real estate markets because they're sort of like super glued together. So let's talk a little bit about the real estate market, and I want to kind of give you a different twist on it, I think. First, I want to talk about the 3 markets, but then I want to talk about what's basically coming at you, and that's your real big challenge, is that you're sort of going to be veering now because we're right there where the baby boomers are still there, and they'll still sort of be buying and selling. But you have this group called the millennials that are coming at you. Now, see, they've been in their 20s, and they haven't come as fast as we thought they would because they played in their 20s. A lot of them lived at home. A lot of them lived in cities. They didn't want to come down to the suburbs. They played, they traveled, they did a lot of things very differently. But they're turning 30 now, okay? And a lot of them are going to be in their 30s. And we're now, and we have a market now of about 50% of them that are millennials. Now, what I can tell you about them is they are extremely different as a group. Now, you know that, I'm sure. You know that the way they communicate is obviously by smartphones and internet. That's the only way they communicate. They're not going to find you by basically listening to you. They're not going to find you. They don't read. They don't look at many of the emails. They may look at some of your snail mail, maybe if you send it. But basically how they're going to find you is if you have a video, which is what they like, and you're on Google, Facebook, Intranet, Instagram, YouTube, Microsoft, Bing, Twitter, you're on Snap, all of those. Those are the ones that they look, breathe, and live at. They spend hours a day on these sites, all right, telling everybody everything about their lives. Everything is about them. They are a me generation. Look at the selfies they take. These are people that send what they eat to breakfast to a friend. So why would you send something to that unless you really were into yourself? And the stupid friend sends back what they ate for breakfast. So you can imagine what we're talking about here. On Facebook, they have their whole lives, everything they do every day, where they go, what they eat, how they dress, what they think, what they like, where they visited, what they drive, where they live. So you have a whole group of people who think and act very differently. Every moment, remember that. Now, make my dream come true today. That's all they care about, is the moment. When you sit down and you talk to them about real estate and you say to them it's a wonderful investment and just think about it, you get interest rates that are low, you get to deduct property taxes, mortgage payments are deductible, and you know you get to walk out 5-7 years from now and you'll have appreciation and it's tax free. You know what one said to me the other day? I don't care. All I want is, can you make my dream come true today? Well, I don't sell real estate anymore. I said, so we'll find you somebody that maybe can do that for you. That's all they care about. Their dream, their experience, their lifestyle, where they live. Let's talk about that. I have never seen a group of people who mix together just fine. So whether you're black or white, green or yellow, whatever nationality you are, whatever religious culture you are, they don't care. They mix and that's just fine. But when it comes to power, money, career, and social status, boy, does it get basically hierarchy, okay? And you are judged by how much money you have how much power you have, what zip code you're living in, where your kids go to school, what country club you belong to, and who you know. And they are snobs, and that's all I can tell you. So now, knowing all of that, let me tell you how they view the markets and what happens. All right. You have an entry market. Now, here's what we have in this world. There's no middle anymore. They don't want to be in the middle. Do not tell them this is a nice middle-class neighborhood. You're out. Boom. You don't have to go beyond that word. Because they don't want to be anything middle class. Because middle class means to them they're not a star. Middle class means to them they're average. Middle class means you're ordinary. Middle class means all the things that we thought about, Betty Crocker and all of that. And how can you possibly be that when your mother brought you into this world and told you that you were perfect, you were beautiful, you were talented, you were twice as smart as everybody, you're entitled to everything, you should inherit the earth, you know all of the earth's problems, you'll solve all the world's problems, and you're perfect. How then can you basically have 18 years of somebody telling you that, holding you up, picking you up, oh my God, nobody can say they don't like you, nobody can bully you, everybody gets a prize as long as you're there and you're standing up, okay? And you've been taught all that, and all of a sudden somebody says to you, oh, you're middle class, you're ordinary. Oh, I'm not ordinary. How can I be ordinary? Then I'm a failure, right? Oh my God, then I need a psychiatrist and the coloring book and the dogs for sure. Okay, so now let's talk about where the world is. So there's no middle class. So what you have are people here that are struggling, okay, and they do struggle to get in here, you know that. These are people that work, automation's gonna take over a lot of their jobs, so they have to be re-careered. They're gonna be the working class people, they're all here. There's no middle. Up here you have all these people, 66, almost 70% of them have degrees, high degrees, and they make a good living. So I'm going to give you an example because everybody says, oh, it's not that much money. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Let me give you an example. I'll use my daughter, not because she's my daughter, but just because it gives you a good example. When our daughter was little, I have a daughter and a son, we sat down and we talked about it, and I said to my husband, they're going to college, that's it. I don't care what we have to do. You can work 5 jobs, I'll work 3, but they are going to college because that's the ticket into the theater. Now, they were never given a choice. They were told from the time they were little, college is where you're going. And the second thing we told them is you better get the best grades you can because we want to send you to the best college you can get into. Because this is the way it works, Jennifer. When you go to apply for a job and it says Stanford, it means a hell of a lot more on a resume than ABC online college. Now, I don't mean to be unkind because I think it's fine, but that's the way it works in Silicon Valley. And I know the reason why it works that way, because Steve Jobs never went to college. Larry Ellison never went to college. A lot of the biggies never went to college. They started there, but they left. So college and being surrounded by very important intellectual people becomes very important to them. It's part of this caste system that I'm talking about. Okay, so we send her to the best schools, and she gets 3 degrees, okay? She's an engineer, she has a sales degree, and a management degree, and an MBA. Okay, fine. So she comes back, she's 23 years old. That's, she's 39 now, so that's how many years ago that is. And she gets a job. She starts out at $180,000 a year, knowing nothing off the street, wow. Right? Now, she's 24 years old, $180,000 a year. 3 years into that, she gets married to an attorney who went to MIT and Duke, okay? And he's an attorney and an electrical engineer, patents, okay? Think patents. Everything with technology is electrical and patents. He starts out at a junior law firm making $200,000 a year. So you have 2 people, 127, 124, making almost $400,000 a year. Now let's fast forward 15 years. If they were still making that, they wouldn't be employed at these places. They would be considered a failure. Because the whole thing is you can start there, but you have to progress up. In fact, if you're an attorney and you spend more than 2 or 3 years in one place, they consider you a failure. You have to move up the chain. If you stay at a company, you get promoted, and that's okay. But if you stay 2 or 3 years and you're not promoted, you're not doing a good job. Nobody else wants you. It's an amazing thing how it works. You have to understand the intricacies of technology and the valley to understand how it works. Okay. So now his company where he works got bought out last year by Intel. So he gets 3 bonuses last year. He gets a you have to stay here bonus. Okay, fine, please stay. He gets his bonus for the year, and then he gets a year-end bonus for Intel. So he gets 3 bonuses. So tax time comes, and I'm looking at what my stupid accountant sent me for what I have to pay for taxes, and I'm thinking to myself, there must be a mistake here. He must have added a zero by mistake. I'm sure that's what happened when they were typing this up. So I call him up and I said to him, and he just hates it when he gets the call because he always says to his people, she's going to be calling this week, just put her through, let me get it over with. And I said to him, look, I don't know what you did, but obviously you did something wrong because this is impossible. And so he starts to explain it all to me, well, fine, whatever. And then he says to me, Carol, really I have to tell you this. He said, you really have no basis for even calling me and talking to me this year because next to your daughter, you look like a pauper because she's paying so much more taxes than you. I want you to know that was a very humbling experience for me as a mother, very humbling. So at the end of the day, do you see what I'm saying? The kind of money and that's not, she's not standing out as an extraordinary person or anything. She now manages 40 people. She has a wonderful career. He has a wonderful career. They've done very well. But all their friends are doing the same thing, okay? So here's the path. Let's talk about the entry market because there you have somebody very different. Because when they started out in a $2 million house. Okay, that was first-time buyer for them. Now let's go down to the first-time buyer environment, which is not $2 million. Now I know it's a lot. It's probably $800,000 to $1.5 million, but it's not $2 million. So let's talk about that. A lot of you come to me and they say, we've been on 6 deals, Carol, and we never gotten one. Well, you're not educating your basically buyers correctly, and you need to do that. So you need to explain to them that they need to be ready, willing, and able. Now, what do I mean by that? Ready means you have the money, okay? It's in a suitcase or you've got the loan. We can't start shopping for a loan after we've been out looking because you're going to lose that house. And how much can you afford? Well, we're approved for $600,000. Great, then we're not looking at $600,000. We're going down to $500,000. Or you can't have a house with 3 bedrooms. I'm sorry. We need to look at condos or maybe a studio because the key is to get in because interest rates are still low. You get all the advantages of the mortgage deduction. You're going to get appreciation because in this market it's double-digit appreciation because we have no inventory and everybody's going there. You got to get in. That's the key. Otherwise, you're going to keep renting and you'll have nothing in 5 years. And here, this is going to be even more expensive. You're going to need more money, which you're not going to have because you've been paying it all in rent. So we've got to get you in, and you have to be ready to understand this. You're not going to be able to get an appraisal. We can get one, but it isn't going to be the one you like, and it's probably not going to be what the house is going to sell for. That's the way it is. Appraisals live in the rear end, and they live in the rear view mirror. We can basically go out and give you stats. I can give you 5,000 of them. They have nothing to do with reality because this is a market that's moving forward. It isn't a market that basically you can judge from behind. It's fluid like a volcano. It's rubbing down basically the mountain. So, yeah, we could try to get disclosures, but you're probably not going to get a chance to look at much. So, therefore, you're going ready, willing, and able. That means we're looking today and we're buying today. We're going to find something today at 8 o'clock. We're coming back at 12. We're writing an offer. And you're going to do that knowing that you've had a glance maybe at disclosures. You're not getting an appraisal. You can get one, but it won't count. You're not going to have any other disclosures. You're probably not going to get an inspection. We'll try. We know that's not good real estate, but that's the way it works if you'd like to get into this market. Oh, and there's one other thing we haven't told you, which is when we go out and look and it says $600,000 on this house, that's not the right price because it's all been listed under the market so they can get multiple offers. So I can try to tell you what I think is market price. I don't know if that's the right price, but it's market. Let's say that's $650,000. Oh, okay, so $650,000 all cash, 10-day close. We've given you a lot of power now. Yes, you have, but you haven't given me the power to win. Because what you're doing is you're trying to play real estate the way you saw it in Real Estate 101 or where they gave it to you on Zillow or wherever those places are where they give you the guides. Okay, no. This is a war. This is a bidding war because now we have people bidding against us. So $650,000 isn't going to get you in. Okay, so maybe $670,000 is good, Carol? No. $680,000? No. Well, how do you know that? Because we know this. The last house that sold, we heard, had 7 offers on it. 1 person got it. 2 backed out. They never wanted to go through this process again, the process from hell. That still leaves 5 people plus you. Now we're back to 6. So we know we're going to have multiple bidders, right? I guarantee you that when that agent listed that property, here's what they said to the seller. This property should be listed at $650,000, but we're going to list it at $600,000. because they're gonna know they have to go to 650, and if there's 3 or 4 offers, guess where you're going? To 700,000. And I'm telling you, when you look at those first numbers, if there's more than 4 people bidding, you change that first number up 1. So the 5 becomes a 6, the 6 becomes a 7, the 7 becomes an 8. Oh, we don't want to do that. Great. That's fine. I can understand that. But you have to accept the fact that you're paying added value today for value you're going to get tomorrow. It's just that simple and that complicated. And if you don't want to do that, then we can't shop here. Then we need to go across the bay, and we can go to Concord or Antioch or Hayward or Alameda, or we can go all kinds of other places, or we can go down further into San Jose, we can go to Gilroy, we can go to Morgan Hill, we can go all kinds of places. But you can't play here if you won't play that way. And I think they need to know that, and that's the way it is. Well, how do we know there'll be added value? Well, I always say this. 1, we see a market where there's tremendous demand, okay? We know that we just talked about the valley and the economy and what's going to happen in the next 5 years. It's not going to be less, there's going to be more. More people, more jobs, more everything. You only have so much land, and that land is pretty much developed and mature. And I guess if I asked everybody that was here today, how many of you were born here? See, very few. How many of you come from someplace else? Most of you. How many of you that come from someplace else would like to go back? Oh, I think I missed that. You see what I'm trying to tell you? Go do that in a room, and you will find out. Few were born here. Many came. Those that came don't want to go back. And we got a lot more coming. By 2040, 2 million more people in California. So at the end of the day, how can it possibly at the entry market, okay? Yeah, it'll have its little ups and downs, so it won't go up 12% next year. It'll only go 3%. Oh my God, isn't that terrible? Yeah, that's really terrible. So that's your sort of first-time buyer market. Now let me talk about the middle to high market, because they've sort of blended together, but they're very, very interesting. So I think that for you starts at 2 and probably could go up to 5 or 6 or whatever, but I'm going to tell you what these millennials like. First of all, they're looking at zip code, and they like the right zip code, trendy areas. That's what they have to have, or they don't care. They won't buy it. So when they say they want a deal, which is I think all of them say, I want a deal, you define that very differently than they'll define it, because let me define a deal for you. A deal for them is, as long as I'm in this zip code, I'll take the worst house in the neighborhood. I'll take the tear down. I'll take a piece of SHIT because it gets me in the zip code. That gets me to where my friends are. And I can then be called a rising star, because rising stars start at the bottom and then they rise. What I can't do is buy the middle. I can't buy anything in the middle, because then I'm not a rising star and I'm not a star. I'm just one of those middle people. And I will not buy that house. I don't care. I don't care what it looks like. I don't want it. Now I'll give you some examples. I'm in Los Altos the other day. The middle there just will not sell. These are houses that were selling during the boom, about $5 million, and they just can't sell them. So there's one that is really a teardown. Okay? It's really a teardown, but it gets you in this zip code. All right? And everybody that's a millennial is coming to look at it. All right? So this one guy who's 32 years old, married with children, walks in and says, look, this is going to be a multiple bidding situation, so I'm just going to give you $600,000 more than you're asking for this property, and I would like to buy it today. My wife wants it. I don't want to hear it anymore. She wants to live here. The kids need to go to school here. So just tell me, will that be enough? Because I just want to do that right now. Can you believe that? $600,000 over.
More.
He didn't need to go. He needed to go over, but he didn't need to go over 600,000. But he didn't care. And she said to him, his own agent, don't do this. For 600,000, we can go to this house. This house doesn't need to be torn down and completely redone. And he said to her, I would never. You must be kidding. See, she didn't get it. It had nothing to do with the house. It had to do with the zip code and getting into that part of the house and that neighborhood. And then they want the very high end. But the very high end is also very specific. So let me give you another example. In Hillsborough last year, there's a piece of property that's 43 acres. And it's owned by a very elderly lady. And it's 20,000 square feet the house, and the house is a tear down. And Hillsborough has a lot of those kind of houses. They look good from the outside. They're crappy on the inside because they're old. These people, they all had help. They never did anything. All right. But it's 43 absolutely gorgeous acres. I mean, talk about a sanctuary. Nobody would ever know you were even there. So they don't list it with an agent in in Burlingame, because they know they don't have any access to the billionaire community, which is what they need to bring up there, because you're talking $100 million, okay. So they list it with an agent in Menlo Park. When I was president in APR, she was there. She's the top agent in the nation. She does about $300 million a year in sales, okay, and she does it all with technology people in Silicon Valley. So she probably sells 13 houses and does 300 million. So you get the picture, okay? So they bring her up, and she brings everybody there, and they all love the sanctuary and the 43 acres, and they all say, however, we could never, ever buy this property. And she said, why? And they said, because doctors, lawyers, and mid-level technology executives live in Hillsborough, and we don't live where they live. We live in Atherton, or we live in Woodside. Now, I'm going to tell you a story that I shouldn't be telling you, but you know Carol Sandburg, you've heard her name? Yes, little technology lady that's very big at Facebook. She absolutely sold a home in Menlo Park because she had to have an Atherton address. That's how caste-oriented they are. And so they're very much, when you're dealing with that group, find out what zip code, what lifestyle, what schools the kids are going to, what kind of cars they drive, what is their lifestyle like, because that's going to determine where they want to live. You can't just show them something in that price range, because they're not going to like it. The second thing that comes into play is condition. They don't mind a tear down, because that they'll take. I've gone into homes that are beautiful. They have Corian and marble in the kitchen, and they're beautifully done, and nice bathrooms. They don't like that. Oh no, they want subway tile, white cabinets, glass, gray, kitchen floors that are gray. They want bathrooms with no plumbing showing, just kind of sinks that are suspended and water that throws in your face, and the music and the aroma, and that's what they want. And I will tell you, if they walk in and a friend doesn't like it, or it has a bad, vibe, or it's not the right street, like they've been told, oh, you don't want to live on that street. I mean, Selby's a good street in Atherton. If you'd like to live on one, that's a good one. Pick Selby, that's a good one. But I could give you streets in Atherton, even if it's Atherton. No. Unless it's a basically entry level, then it would be okay. That's how specific they are. In San Francisco, they like Jackson, Broadway, Pacific, and then they like the funky areas, like Castro, Noe Valley, the Intermission. They buy these houses on Pacific Avenue and Broadway, and they pay between $35 and $50 million for them, and then they gut them. And when I say gut them, I'm not talking paint. I'm not talking going in and doing a kitchen for 2 years, putting a tarp around them and bringing them down to the wood studs. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting another $10 million in it, and then another $5 million in furnishings. So they're into these houses $65 to $70, $80 million, and they don't care. And they don't care.
Jeez.
And I know that that's almost mind-boggling, but that's what you're dealing with. Two different worlds. This world that you're helping these people struggling, trying to get in, trying to find them something, and then you're dealing with the rising star, which is still pretty decent, and then you've got these absolutely impossible, arrogant, snobbish, overwhelming people. So I'll just give you a story that might help you to understand. I have 2 granddaughters. Now this is the daughter, right? That their first house was a $2 million house, so we know that it's come up somewhat to some degree. Okay. And she has a nanny because she does work, and she has 55 people that she manages, and half of them are in India, and she's always in the air going to India. So she deserves to have somebody to help her. So they have a lot of help in the house. They have a nanny, they have a regular person. Oh, please. Okay, fine. So the girls go to this school, and they go to swimming after school. And so Jennifer, when she was small, went to swimming at the YMCA, right? Or the YWCA. That was fine. Oh, no. These little girls all go to swim at each person's house because everybody has a pool. So they rotate with the instructor. Okay, fine. So I get a call one day from my daughter, and she says the nanny got sick and she can't go pick up the girls. can you go pick up the girls? These are my two granddaughters. I say, fine. She says, Mom, don't go ring the doorbell. Go around the side. Perfect. I don't give a you know what. I'll go around the side. I'm not so happy that I have to be in the front. I got the house. So I go around the side. I sit with all the nannies. I have a great time. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're all speaking Spanish, but I'm laughing. They're laughing. And they're talking to me. They're hugging me. They're kissing me. Oh, Nana from Jessica. Oh, fine, wonderful. Okay, fine. I'm having a good time. So the girls get through swimming, and I say to the girls, okay, come on, girls, let's go. We got to get out of here. And my little one, who's 5 years old, says to me, oh, no, we're not ready to go yet, Nana, because we're going to the party in the pavilion. And I looked at her and I said to her, do you know what a pavilion is? No, she said, I don't know. But that's where we have our parties. Oh, great. And then she says, and this one is a theme party, so you have to help us get dressed in our costumes. Get dressed in your costume. So now I'm outside dressing these girls with Disney outfits with the stupid things in the hair. Oh, my God. So all of a sudden they go into this pavilion. Now I'm looking at this backyard. They had a play area for children. They had a golf tee. They had a basketball court. They had a pavilion. They had a spa. They had a fire pit. And okay, all of a sudden, two women come out that are dressed in black and white outfits, uniforms. Nobody dresses people like that anymore. But they come out with silver trays. And on these trays are little china cups and little plates with little cupcakes and little cookies and lemonade. Okay? And I'm standing outside watching my two granddaughters being served by two people, right? Now this is absolutely ridiculous, okay? So we get in the car, and I'm thinking to myself, now what am I going to say to these two little girls, okay? Because I am absolutely overwhelmed by this, that they have two women who had to serve these kids. This is absolutely ridiculous. So I said to them, did you have a nice time? Yes. Do you do this often? Yes, every week we go to somebody's house. I said, well, you know how you come to Nana's and she lives in a condominium and there's a pool there? Great. Well, let me tell you how life works. Everybody goes to that pool. That's number one. Number two is when you have lemonade and cookies at Nana's house by the pool, it's on paper plates and paper cups. So get used to it because that's how 99% of the world lives. Not everybody has two uniform maids come out and serve them tea and lemonade and cups, and I got news for you. That isn't in my game plan for you, so get a break and get adjusted. So the little one says to me, that means we can't go to the pavilion, Nana? I said, great, go to the pavilion and enjoy yourself, but just realize this, it's going to be over by the time you're 18. It's ending, that's it. You're going to work and earn a living. Oh my God, I was just overwhelmed. Now I'll tell you another story, because these are great stories about these people. They go to a school where they have a gala every year. My daughter has a gala this year, and they have prizes. So they don't sell tickets to parents. They sell tickets to these companies. So Facebook, Google buys a table. Now you get the picture, right? They put them right next to each other, and they compete, right? So guess what the first prize is? They go out, she goes out into the system and goes to like a Larry Ellerson or a Tim Cook or whatever and says, we need a prize, right? They all have their kids there. They need a prize. So the first prize, imagine this is, you get to fly in a private jet, and you get to go to Tim Allen's yacht for 1 week. Now, you know who Tim Allen is. He's the co-founder of Microsoft. He has like a $500 million yacht. The second prize was a private jet going to a villa in Italy that somebody owned with help, and you could spend a week there and bring everybody. And the third prize was a private jet going to Los Angeles, where you got to go into a movie studio to watch a TV series being filmed, and you got a part and a speaking role in that one of that night. So I said to Jennifer, how does it work? She says, well, she said, we put them up and they start bidding, one table against the other. And she said, Mother, I timed it. In 32 minutes, we raised $3 million on just those three prizes. Amazing, isn't it? And that's just a night out on the town to help the kids. Because the guy got up that's the head teacher and said they needed money for science or whatever. Boom, there it is. And guess what? The man that's head of Gentech has a child that goes there that got up and said, don't worry about the area, just give us the space. I'll send you all the scientists and all the computers you need to put in this environment for the children. Now you wonder why kids down here can't make it. Now you get the picture. And it's never going to change because they're never sending their children down there. And these kids probably will never get a chance to get up here unless they're exceptional and especially bright and somebody gives them a scholarship or something. And that's the valley you live in. I'm not saying it's great, I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm not saying it's equal, I'm just saying that's your client, you know the difference. You can deal with them, you can deal with them, as long as you understand, of the moment, get them what they want, find out what they want in what areas. When they say deal to you, it's not gonna be deal like you think of it. When they say they're ready, you better explain to them what ready means. Do many of them have the cash? Yes, they do. Will they spend it? Yes, they will, if they like it. And if their friends like it, if they don't see testimonials, they don't trust any of you, they don't like any of us, you know that. You're only good for the last deal you made, and you're only good for a minute. But if one of their friends referred you, then that makes you a good person. So that's everything that I know. You have a great economy, you have a great real estate market, it's the people that are coming at you. They're gonna be overwhelming. Now, I'm sure there's some that fall in the middle that are lovely and charming and wonderful and nice. I think my children are nice too. But I definitely get the impression that everybody's on a career path. In fact, I'll give you an example. My daughter-in-law called me today and said somebody my son had gone to college with, his wife had a 40th birthday party that she went to, but my son didn't. Well, he was traveling, but he came home. And the young man who's married to this girl said, you know, I just don't see Bill anymore, and I don't understand why. And he said to her, I think I've been replaced by this other gentleman. And so my daughter-in-law says, what do you think? I said, I think he has been replaced. I think he was a good childhood friend. I think it's terrible. But I think this other guy lives in the city, in the same place that he lives. He's in the hedge fund business. He lives in a $7 million home. My son lives in a penthouse on Pacific Heights, overlooking the ocean and the bridge and the city. Everybody's got health. They move in a different world. This young man lives in San Jose, and he's a perfectly charming guy. And if I had my choice between the two, I would take him in 1 minute. But my son would prefer this. And that's the way they are. And we raised them that way, so you live with what you get, right? But good real estate market, good economy, and I think I brought Steve here for a minute. So when you look at it, it's gonna be, you're gonna look at this pocket, okay, you can look at the whole market. Entry market will do just fine. When you start to get to the middle, start to segment it. The tear down, the I just got in will go up. The this is special, I'm a star will go up. The ones in the middle will go down. So you're gonna have to start, as you get up the scale, to segment your appreciation. Oh, this market will be up, that market will be down. There's too many mini markets and too much mini thinking within those markets.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Yes, sir.
So, I don't know if you noticed, but they just lowered rates this last week.
Yes, they did.
And we're already in a supply problem, and that puts more pressure on pricing. What's the thought to why they would lower rates when we're having such a supply problem?
Well, they don't care about us. I mean, when you see the rates that are lowered, they're lowered for everybody across the board. And you're talking about California. Nobody cares about California. They don't care about it. And look at it this way. We are going to be living in a low interest world for a long time. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, Mrs. Yellen probably will raise interest rates again in June, maybe 0.25%. I know she'd like to because she's really caught between a hard place and a rock. So maybe she'll take it and do it. But at the end of the day, we're so leveraged and everybody's so leveraged. And the only thing holding this economy together right now is the leverage and the borrowing power. That's what's holding it all together. They can't possibly raise interest rates. So obviously we've seen the bond, look at the 10-year, 2.2. It was as low as 1.3, as high as 2.8. Everybody thought by now it would be at 3%. And look where it is at 2.2. Now I think what happens is it's gonna stay there until September. Then you're gonna see it either go up a little or go down some more even. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't do anything back there, if that 10-year goes even lower.
Wow.
Wow, I know.
We got Japan all over again.
You got it, negative rates.
Carol,
tried that.
what about the stock market? Where do you see that?
I told you, I think the stock market is gonna stay where it is right now through September. And then if they get things going in Washington, it'll go to 22,000. And if they don't, we're going back down. I tell you the companies you should look at, anything to do with defense. The Raytheons, the Boeings, the Northrop Grummons. I just bought some waste management, Republic Services, anything to do with technology, anything on the dips. Don't be afraid to buy an Apple. It's, you know, you should have bought it when I was here last time. It was $90. I told everybody to buy it. It's now, did you? Good for you. It's now $160 a share. Buy it on the dips. Don't be afraid.
She gave you a commission.
Well, Andy was listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Very well.
I learned a lot from you.
Oh, good. I'm glad.